I think it's so important to have a strong social media presence, no matter who you are. Like if you're a company, a model, trying to start your own business, whatever you are, like that's how people learn about you. That's how you build awareness. I realized that I liked it, so I applied for an agency. They told me I was too short.
Oh my God. Where do you think this came from actually? They argue that all the modeling industry is kind of doing is like putting unrealistic standards on people's brain that might ruin other people's life as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Commercial modeling, there is another kind of modeling, there is runway modeling. How many types are there basically? Have you ever faced these kind of issues at the workplace too because of like who you are? When did you tell your parents that and I wanted to pursue modeling? Who is Alysha Hemani? Welcome to today's episode of Hills Media Podcast. I have an incredible guest with me today. Her name is Alysha Hemani. She is a fashion model and actually a petite model who has actually defied the norms of the industry standards by walking the New York Fashion Week and the Paris Fashion Week with just a height of 5'3", which is very unusual for a model to have. Welcome, Alysha. How are you feeling?
Good, good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
She has also collaborated with the brands such as MAC Cosmetics and Gloripe and Emicole and Conair. It's so good to have such a wide experience and talent, Alysha. First of all, what do you feel about the setting? Is it like comfortable enough?
Yeah, it looks great.
This looks great, right? All right, so I'm gonna start with like a very deep down to know about you, get to know what your journey has been and like, you know, what brings you towards this position right here. Mm-hmm. So if you could tell us about something about how you would introduce yourself or who is Alysha Hemani?
It's a loaded question. So actually I grew up in Texas and then also Arkansas. Arkansas is very interesting because there's not a lot of people who look like me and you.
Yep.
So that was, I think, very critical to my upbringing, is really just like missing that connection to my community, like people who look like me, people who share the same experiences as me, other Indian Americans, you know, near me, around me, being able to talk to them. That was mostly high school and college. And when the pandemic hit, I was trying to just understand. I graduated with a degree in business and economics with a concentration in marketing and sociology. So I've always kind of been in the world of marketing, social media, advertising, you know, that's always been a passion of mine. But I was starting to feel like I couldn't really tap into my creativity. Okay. And so during COVID, I started looking for a hobby. And funnily enough, I dove into kind of styling myself, getting in front of the camera, learning how to create a shoot for myself and started taking pictures. And I got into the world of modeling that way by applying to agencies, working with different photographers in Arkansas. In Arkansas, right after COVID.
That is very interesting.
Yeah. But after that, I realized that I liked it, so I applied for an agency, and they told me I was too short.
Oh my God.
And I was like, this is not New York, this is not Milan, this is Arkansas. I feel like I should be able to
model however you want to model.
Right, like it's not that competitive. But
do you have more beautiful I'm just kidding.
Right? So for some reason that lit a fire underneath me. I was like, I don't even want this that bad, but now I want to prove you wrong, right? Like, how are you going to tell me no?
Yeah.
Eventually, for my job, I ended up moving to New York. That was always the dream, right? I wanted to be in a big city, and if I was going to choose a big city, it was going to be the best big city in the world.
Yep.
So I ended up moving to New York, and modeling was in the back of my mind, but I also was being reasonable and realistic with myself. I was like, I'm 5'3", New York is the fashion capital of the world. Like, we'll see what happens, right?
Something will fit.
Yeah. But within a week or two of being in New York City, I got my first modeling job without even trying. It was like, it was meant for me, it came to me.
Wow.
And so I started taking it seriously. And so now I've been here for almost 4 years. I've been kind of juggling my marketing job, my modeling career, and just trying to tackle what I can in the industry.
Making the best out of it.
Yeah.
That makes me think, do you ever feel like one part, like because you have this multifaceted talents and you're trying to juggle so many things at one time, do you kind of feel like, sometimes people might overshadow one aspect of your talent and to favor towards the other? Like, they might not know how much of an academic genius you are if they just see like, as just like a model or something like that. Do you feel like sometimes this happens?
Oh, 100%. I think it's so funny, and I probably would never admit this, but based on what room I'm in, I introduce myself in a different way. So if I'm,
interesting.
At a networking event, or I know people that I'm around are probably in finance or tech, I tell them I'm in marketing, and I will never mention that I'm a model. If I'm in a space where I know mostly there's like more creative people, they're artistic, like things of that nature, I'll tell them I'm a model. Just because it comes with a lot of judgment, it comes with a lot of stereotypes, and I think I'm trying to get to a place where I'm proud to say that I'm both or like one or the other. But I think right now it's like, because there's judgment either way, it depends on the room, how I introduce myself.
So for example, if today we didn't have the podcast, what would Alysha Hemani be doing right now?
Probably trying to get more clients for my marketing.
I see, businesswoman altogether.
Yes. And then also I would love to sign with another agency. So I'm currently with one modeling agency, but in the new year I'm hoping to sign to at least 1 to 2 more. And so just getting ready for what that looks like, working on my portfolio, building out my website, and getting ready to like do auditions in the new year.
That's really nice. So when you mentioned like, when you have like, you introduce yourself in a certain way to different kind of people, which is completely understandable. Do some of the people, when you're introducing yourself like as a marketing strategist to the corporate people, do they always like, point out, hey, you look really good, you should be a model or something like that?
I think I more so get like, I think I've seen you on social media. Like, I think I've seen you somewhere. Like,
yeah,
you look
that's
familiar.
It happens, right?
Like, I feel like I get that a lot. And I'm like, oh yeah, you might have seen me, on a commercial or like something like that. But yeah, I feel like right now it's hard to work in the corporate world and have this like whole other career. I think I struggled with that a lot at one of my previous jobs.
Okay.
I was like, I wouldn't let coworkers get too close, like to like get to know about my personal life too much or whatnot. If they were like, oh, what'd you do this weekend? I wouldn't be like, oh, I was on a shoot. I'd be like, oh, I just like hung out with some friends. I think like
sometimes
trying to balance that perception, because if they're like, oh, you have a corporate job and you have this whole other career that you're working on, you're probably not as serious about your job.
I see.
And other way around with modeling, if like you tell them, oh, I also have a corporate job, they're like, oh, so you're not taking this seriously. This is just like for fun. This is just a hobby. And so it's almost like 2 full careers that I'm trying to balance and trying to take both seriously and give time to both and show that I'm serious in both. But it's almost like I can't tell the other person that I'm doing it.
I think that makes a very interesting point, because I think I've also done that in a sense that, it kind of feels that when you're trying to do a certain different job and then you introduce another thing that you are so good at, these things, it kind of puts a very different view in front of all the colleagues and everybody that, oh, is that like the change in tonality or something like that always happens.
Definitely, yeah.
And especially like if you come from a very stereotypical background such as us, like, they always put us in that category. Have you ever faced these kind of issues at the workplace too, like because of like who you are?
What do you mean?
Like for example, as a woman in the career of the corporate environment, have you faced some of the challenges that women normally or everyday faces, like this soft kind of misogyny in a sense, that, have you ever had these kind of experiences here?
Oh, of course. I don't think there's any woman out there who probably hasn't.
Yeah, that's true, probably.
I can't.
What is your mantra to deal with these?
I think it's just going back to like knowing my worth. And I think it also goes back to like who we are. You know, I feel like for me, I ground myself in understanding that my parents came here with nothing to build up and give me the kind of life that they've always dreamed of. And so it's my responsibility to do everything that I can to make them proud and make them happy. And I am dedicated. I worked hard my entire life. I put in that much effort. And so I deserve what I'm demanding, or I deserve whatever I'm working towards or whatever I'm working for.
Exactly.
And if someone's going to come at me in a different way or not allow me to achieve that, we're gonna have a conversation. We're gonna have to figure that out.
Okay, way too serious.
Yeah.
Let's break the ice a little bit. Let's talk about the viral TikTok. So I know that the one in which like that got very viral about the New York Fashion Week casting, in which you went there, even though the demand was that they wanted a model which was more than 5'10".
Yeah.
But you went there anyway. How was that experience like? Because that sounds so good. Like, you know, there shouldn't be any sort of a norms when it comes to casting or like, you know, going for a model or something. How did you break that and what was going through your mind at that moment?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think much of it, like, because I always do that.
Yeah.
Like, I think for me, I'm always applying for jobs that I'm not fully qualified for. I'm always applying for modeling gigs that I don't meet all of the requirements for.
Okay.
I don't know if most people know, but especially for modeling, how they list out who they're looking for is very specific in terms of like ethnic and like other demographics. So it'll be like, we're looking for someone who's a female who looks like they're 25 to 35, who has blonde hair and is Caucasian and can juggle. I don't know, right? Like they look for very, very specific demographics, and almost never does it say South Asian or Indian female or anything like that. So I'm always applying for the category that says ethnically ambiguous. Even though I'm not ambiguous at all. I know exactly what my ethnicity is.
I can see that why we have to do that. I understand,
right.
Yeah.
But it's because, you know, Indians, South Asians, we aren't represented in the mainstream media currently. And so we're just kind of grouped together in this like other category. Or like you might be this, you might be that, I don't know, we'll see, right? And so for me, ever since I started modeling, I've always had to go into a room or apply for something where I don't belong or I don't meet the requirements. Because how else do I get my foot in the door?
Exactly.
If they were like, oh, you can't do this. Okay, great, thank you. I'm gonna go home.
Sometimes you have to knock the doors.
Yeah, you have to break down the doors. And I feel like that's what I've been trying to do. So especially with Runway and with Fashion Week, they only want people who are minimum above 5'8" or 5'9". But mostly they want people who are 5'10". And a lot of times there are some places that will stop you at the door
really?
and measure you.
Oh, I see.
They don't need to measure me, but
but like very.
But they're very strict about it. And
snooty.
So I think for me, it's just so important to like put myself out there because you never know. For me, I have always found success. I mean, not always, but I found success when I've gone into rooms where I don't belong or I don't meet the requirements. And so exactly as same as that day, I was like, you know what? You never know what's gonna come out of this. Like if I don't get, you know, if I don't get to walk in the runway show, that's fine. But maybe I catch the eye of a designer, or maybe I meet another model and she helps me get another gig. Or I meet a casting director who's like, hey, actually, can you be in my commercial? Because for that, we don't really care about height, right? Like you just never know what's going to come from that opportunity. And that's what I was thinking when I walked into that room. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it my best shot. We'll see what happens, but at least something else will come out of this if I don't get into the show.
Yeah, that sounds fair. Like, I mean, you only miss the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
That's actually a really good perspective towards like, you know, approaching anything in life, I think in general. Also, like when you mentioned about doing the brands such as MAC Cosmetics and Conair, do you ever felt like, you know, at that moment that I've made it finally, that, you know, I'm getting something big? Because MAC, I think, has been for, I think, our entire childhood and all that thing.
Yeah.
We grew up seeing their products and everything. Not that I'm sponsoring, nothing sponsored by anybody. Yeah. Have you felt that moment that, you finally made it or that moment how's that feeling like when you were doing these commercials?
Yeah, no, it's been crazy. I still don't feel like I've made it. I don't know. I think like every time I hit one of my goals, I'm like, okay, well, I have to reach the next goal. But no, I think the goal definitely for this year is I want to see my face on a billboard. So we'll see, hopefully 2025. But it's crazy. I think even in my wildest dreams, I never thought I could accomplish anything even close to this. So I always tell my friends, like, my life feels fake. Like, I think I'm living someone else's life. Like, this is insane. This is crazy that I'm achieving any of this. But they always remind me, like, you've worked so hard. Like, there's so many other people who maybe are like born into the right family or have the right connections or have the money or like whatever it may be, right? And like you've kind of really, really, really worked your way up and pushed through everything to get there. So you really do deserve like being happy about anything and everything you've achieved. So I am proud, I am happy.
That's really amazing. I mean, when I think about the whole situation that happens with like, especially with the modeling and their rigid standards that goes into the place, how is the environment like for all the people who are trying to aspire to be a model? What is the first thing they're going to encounter when they're trying to enter the modeling industry? How bad is it or how good is it?
Yeah, there's definitely pros and cons. I think the first thing I noticed is constantly comparing myself to the other models. And feeling self-conscious.
And is it something that only you do, or like everybody does that? All
Everyone.
The models.
I mean, it's so easy, right? I think even if you're not a model, I think if you're just a normal human being, like you're constantly comparing yourself to people on social media, whatever, at work, like around you in bigger cities, whatever it may be. Like I think you're always comparing. But when your whole job is to look a certain way or to look like, I think sometimes with modeling, it's like yes. You have to have other talents. You have to know how to pose in front of a camera, how to be confident, how to talk to a camera. You have to do all those things. But the first thing that you're being judged on is your appearance, right? That is what they're looking at first, and your measurements.
And the measurements.
And so it does get toxic. I think it does get tough. I think it's something that you're constantly aware, right? Before I'd be like, oh, I got a pimple on my face. Oh no, like, maybe a couple days, like I'll cover it with makeup, whatever. Now I'm like, I have a shoot tomorrow. There's something on my face that is going to ruin it, right? Like it is so much more apparent to you that you're constantly thinking about what you're eating that day, how many times you're exercising, who you're around, what you're doing, right? What you're wearing. Like it's just a conscious thing that you're constantly thinking about, I think. But then on the flip side,
there's a pro side too.
There is a pro side. I think for me, like so many of the things that I personally was insecure about, weirdly enough, modeling's helped me embrace them. So the last 3 shoots that I did with really, really big brands that I could only dream of, they are trying to be more inclusive. So they were looking for a model who has acne or like who has texture. Who has
texture in this case,
yeah. And like hyperpigmentation, which is so common among South Asians too. So for me, like I was like, that's going to take me out of the running. Like initially, like I can't model for a beauty brand.
Yeah.
They want clear, perfect, flawless skin. But that was actually a reason they chose me. Because I didn't have perfect, flawless skin.
See, sometimes it can work out anyways. All you have to do is like, probably be confident in your own self. And
exactly. So I think a lot of it is just like being confident in yourself and putting yourself out there, despite whatever you think is a flaw about you.
Have you ever dealt with like a rejection? For example, like, do you have a moment in which like somebody just said no and that kind of stuck with you? How did you dealt with it, or like what happened at that moment?
I mean, I face rejections every day, like
I could
multiple, many, constantly.
Although it's very hard to imagine, but
yeah. Thank you. It's a really, really big part of modeling, I think, is you're full of rejections. Like
you constantly get rejections and acceptance and all that.
Yeah, because like think about it, like how competitive the market is in New York to even get just one job with a brand. There was one commercial that I got recently. It's coming out next year, and they had 5,000 submissions. They chose 6 people at the end, but they had 5,000 submissions.
5,000 and only 6.
Yeah.
That's very cutthroat, I mean.
Yeah, and that's every like casting that you apply for essentially. Is like you have thousands and thousands of people who are applying, and you might even make it to the 3rd round and then get rejected. You might make it to the final round and then they like swap someone else. You might even make it and do the whole commercial, and then when they air it on TV, you're not even in it anymore.
Oh.
So I think
but you still get paid for that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, you still get paid. So there's lots of rejections within it. But I think the biggest one for me was definitely the one I kind of mentioned earlier, which was that, you know, I'm too short to model, and that I wouldn't make it. And so I think I took that very well and became successful.
Yeah. Like you kind of push it back on them that, you know,
Yeah,
it's okay. I'll take it as a lesson.
exactly.
I think that's what a best advice would be, right? Like, you know, if you get a failure, that just makes you humble in a sense. And now you kind of get the path towards like going towards the right direction in a sense.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really right. Also, do you kind of feel that there is enough representation for Indian Americans in the fashion industry?
No, not at all. Definitely not. I mean, I think I'm very proud of like, I think South Asian creatives this last year. I think we've definitely we're a little bit more mainstream than we used to be. I think we're cool. We're up and coming. I think we're getting the spotlight a lot more, but there's still so much work to be done. And I think it honestly starts with like Indians ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we don't give each other the spotlight. I think we have this like scarce mentality where we're like, oh, like if I'm trying to make it, I'm gonna push you down. Like only I can make it.
The crab mentality.
Yeah. And I think it's been interesting to see. I think like we have our figureheads, we have some successes, but there's so many more of us who are creative, who have these like special talents that we can offer and like kind of grow more in the industry.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we're helping each other out as much as we should. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes or like deep-rooted issues that we still have within the community where we're not giving people the spotlight who deserve it.
I see. Do you kind of feel like, you know, let's go back to your childhood actually, because growing up as an Indian American here in the United States, let's trace it back to like how was your upbringing like? Like, you know, did you ever had this identity crisis? Like, you know, am I more American or am I more Indian? And how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone does growing up, especially because when I lived in Texas, I lived in San Antonio, and I did have a bigger Indian community around me. So I was really deeply rooted in it. And then when I moved to Arkansas, there weren't that many people that I could relate to. That I could relate to. So for me, I was like, how do I fit in? What do I do? You don't get it. I was the only Indian in my entire high school.
In Arkansas?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that less?
Yeah. So there were definitely other high schools who had more Indians, but at least in the district that I was and in the area that I was the only Indian. And so I was, of course, like exotic or like asked weird questions or, you know, whatever. And so I think for me, that was kind of a defining moment. Like I decided then that the minute that I did have a chance to move, I wanted to be in a place where I was much more surrounded by a South Asian community and could like really grow and learn and like lean on those kinds of people because that's who I connected with the most. So yeah.
Have you ever felt that, especially in the modeling industry, right? A lot of people might develop some kind of a eating disorder. Have you ever dealt with that, or is that something that's very frequent in that industry?
100%. I think I've even had some friends who I started noticing, you know, initially like we would meet up to like grab dinner, grab breakfast, catch up, my model friends, and I started noticing one of them in particular, she always ate before, and I'm like, interesting.
She never joins you in like eating?
Yeah, she never joined in eating. And so obviously like I started seeing differences there. Even for myself, I think like I started changing the way that I eat, or being like, oh, I'm intermittent fasting, which was never something I did before, you know. But I think you are pressured to look a certain way, because when you say you are a model, or when someone thinks of, you know, someone being a model, you know, everyone has this idea in their head, right?
Yeah.
Like that you're this super tall, super skinny, right? Like chiseled jaw, like cheekbones kind of look. And I think if I'm missing on the height, then at least let me make it up in other ways, right? Let me be like size 0. Let me have the like structured face.
Like the industry standards that
right, let me
going,
see if I can make it up in some other way so that I can still be titled or like look like a stereotypical model in some kind of way. And so I think it is a big issue. For me personally, I'm more in commercial modeling versus high fashion and runway. And I think high fashion and runway, they're very much pressured into looking a certain way, into maintaining their measurements, into maintaining their weight, in mostly unhealthy ways.
Yeah.
I think when you're in the commercial modeling field, then I think there's a little bit of leniency, and they're not as strict with it. So for me, I'm very much okay. Because I think for me, I would much rather stay true to myself as much as possible. Have I amped up how much I work out? Yes. Have I changed the way I eat? Yes. Even like when I go home, my mom's really annoying. She's like, you need to eat dal chapel, like please, like you look like you lost 10 pounds. So I think like for me, I try to find the best balance, but it is constantly something you think about. Like every single day, every single minute, it's like, did I gain like 1 pound on my chin? Do I like, because you have to give your measurements for everything. The first question they ask is, send me your headshot, send me your measurements. Send me your headshot, send me your measurements. You're constantly sending those numbers to someone, and you're like, if you get rejected, they're like, did they not like my measurements? Did they not like how I look? Right? That's like the first thought you're going to have. So if you're saying the numbers of your body a lot more than you're saying your name, like
then
obviously,
you kind of notice it every day.
Yeah, you're noticing it all the time.
So have you ever had this kind of experience in which like, I'm sorry, I lost the train of my thought. What was I about to say? Yeah, so for example, like whenever you're trying to get into this, let's say a runway show or something like that, is there a specific kind of a diet that you follow just 1 day before or 2 days before, just so that, you know, you make sure that everything is looking perfect or fine, there's not too much bloating, or like, you know, not too much cellulites are exposed or something like that? Or, yeah, what's the process like?
Yeah, I think a lot of runway models do that, and I think it's a process too. Like, you know that Fashion Week is September and February, so leading up to it, like I think it's a process of like, okay, I have 3 months to like work on how my body needs to look and like the measurements that I want to achieve. So like I said, at least for me, I'm a lot more of the mind of like working out as much as I can and eating very clean and eating very healthy. I never ate salads before in my life, and now I'm eating salads all the time. So I think it's like a combination of all of that. I think in the industry though, it's very scary. When I was at Paris Fashion Week, we were there all day. So from 7 a.m. to 6 or 7 p.m. And all they gave us to eat was a croissant.
That's it?
That's it.
Wow.
For the whole entire day.
Wow, that's crazy actually.
Yeah, some coffee and a croissant. So that's very typical.
And I think like that's something that, you know, when you hear about Paris, and you know that, you know, that's something expected from Paris, and especially them.
But it was different. It's different in New York. It's different on commercial and like photo shoots.
Yeah,
and
because
things
I think
of that
like
nature.
here we are more liberal in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But with runway, it's very standard.
It's very
and
standard.
I really want it to change, which is why I'm pushing so hard. But I don't know if people are ready for change. Like, it's very divided. Like even on that TikTok that you saw, there were so many people who were like, we need to see real people on the runway, right? We need to see people, like when I see clothes on a runway, I want to see what they're going to look like on me. And I'm not size 000 and 5'9", you know? Like I want to see what it would look like on a normal person, and we want more diversity and more representation. But then there were so many people who were like, clothes only look good on tall, skinny people. There's a reason you have to be tall and skinny.
Yeah.
Like the runway's only meant for tall and skinny people.
Yeah, where do you think this came from actually? Like, this whole kind of a standard and very unrealistic beauty standards. Like some might actually argue that all the modeling industry is kind of doing is like putting unrealistic standards on people's brain.
Yeah.
That might ruin other people's life as well. What's your take on that? Where did this come from?
Yeah, 100%. My theory is that I think modeling was always meant to be exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So like and it's like something you can't change about yourself, right? Like I can get as skinny as I want, but I can't grow in height, right? And women are not that tall. There's only a handful of women who are 5'9", 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah.
And so it's like this thing that you can't achieve. And so I think it's like the combination of being really, really exclusive. It's something that you're just born with, you either have it or you don't.
Exactly.
You're able to maintain it, because you already were born with those genetics or like with that look. And so I think it's just really meant to keep it exclusive. So it's inspirational, aspirational, right? It's like something you can't achieve and you always want it and you're chasing it and you're trying to do whatever you can. And you're always looking up to those people.
Yeah.
So I think like that's kind of where it came from.
Do you think these standards are sometimes maybe just centered towards a certain ethnicity?
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because like they all know that, because of there are certain famines and all those things that we survived as Indians that,
yeah,
of course we don't have those kind of genetics, especially like our women, because they haven't been that much active in sports and all these things just
exactly.
a few generations ago. And
yeah.
now that we are, like, we can see the difference as well, right? So, Alysha, you were mentioning like, there are commercial modeling, there is another kind of modeling, there is runway modeling. How many types are there basically? Like for somebody who I'm not that familiar about that, so can you please explain me like what are the types of model which are there?
Yeah, I think it's a great question because even I didn't know there were so many different kinds of modeling until I got into the industry. And I think they look for specific looks based on each different type. So runway, we all know, right? That's what you see, like the catwalk, New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week. For that, typically they do look for height. It's very, very important. So usually like 5'8" is usually the lowest they go. I think the industry is kind of becoming better about inclusivity. And so if you're 5'6" to 5'7", you could kind of make it and you look a little taller.
Yeah.
But usually you need height for that. And then there is commercial, which is really where I thrive. And that's commercials you're seeing on TV, on YouTube, but also commercial print. So like the ads you see on the subway or like billboards or like the posters you see on all our walls, all around New York, things of that nature. And a lot of times they're not looking for someone who is super tall. They're more so looking at your features. They're looking at kind of like an acting background sometimes too. Like they might want you to eat on camera, or they might want you to make funny faces or things like that. So I think it's a lot more like personality is what they look for. Yeah, so like that's much more important there is like having the look, but then having the personality. And like talent that goes with it. Then there's parts. So that's like hand modeling or leg, foot modeling, or like, so if you think about a jewelry brand, they might want to take very close-ups of like, the jewelry on your ear or your neck or your ring, like your hand for your rings. And so that's parts modeling. You might not even have to show your face in that one.
Is it like more money in that?
There actually is a lot of money. Yeah. Like I've seen projects where people pay up to like $10K just for hand modeling.
Just for hand modeling,
yeah.
Wow.
A lot of alcohol, beer companies want hand models like to hold the alcohol in various ways, things of that nature. So very lucrative. And then there is beauty and hair. So I also do a lot more of that as well. Okay. Beauty is always just shoulders up, like, like the Neutrogena commercial and stuff like that, that you've always seen. And so that again works really well for someone who doesn't have a lot of height. Same thing with hair. Just make sure your hair is healthy and grown out.
Bouncy and shiny.
Yeah.
You get the Pantene commercial.
Yeah, right? Very close one day. So yeah, I think there's like lots of different kinds of models. So really based on what your skill set is, what your look is, what your features are, I think you can thrive in different ones.
Different types of
Obviously, everyone wants to do everything. So
Yeah.
like the more well-rounded you are, the better. There's also fit modeling. So fit modeling is something that's very unique. You're never really in front of a camera.
Okay.
What you do is you're based on measurements. And so you work with designers and companies to try on clothes so that they're not only making clothes off a mannequin.
Oh,
So you
I
kind of
see.
do like a presentation for them and you try on the clothes before they go to market, before they get
Oh.
released. And you have to have very specific measurements. It's very lucrative, you get paid very well, but you're never in front of a camera for that. So there's lots of different kinds based on like what you're looking for to really thrive in and like become successful in.
And which category would you say has the most exposure?
I would say, so everyone says runway gives you exposure but doesn't pay anything, and commercial pays a lot of money, but like
Very less exposure.
not, yeah, like you're getting a lot of eyes, but I think high fashion and like editorial and runway is very like glamorous and exciting, right? Everyone's like, oh, I want to walk for this designer, I want to be on the face of Vogue, things like of that nature, right? I want to do, yeah, right? Like I want to do those like cool shoots that are super creative and like very funky, and like commercials very much like I'm brushing my hair on camera, like it's like very
Focused
standard,
or centric.
yeah.
Just
So-
one aspect of a beauty in a sense. I see.
Exactly. So I think there's differences based on what you're looking for. Commercial pays really well. Runway doesn't.
Not so much.
But runway is super glamorous. Like it's all for the clout, you know?
Yeah, I see. Also, we were just talking about Victoria's Secret at a moment. And I've seen like from years where the only thing that I see about Victoria's shows is like their runway shows in which like there's some artist performing or something. I have seen every ethnicity over there except the Indian American.
We actually did have an Indian this
We did
past
have?
year. Neelam Kaur. She's Punjabi.
I see.
She walked the runway.
Finally, I would say.
Yeah.
But it
So-
took her so long though.
It did. And I think like that circles back to everything I've said is like, I think it's a combination of one, the industry like isn't ready for us yet. Like they don't welcome us. They're not looking for us. We're getting very typecasted, right? Like I've done a lot of auditions where like, they're like, can you speak in an accent?
Wow.
Like a Desi accent, like an Indian accent. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that just for a role. Like you know, like that's so unfair, like so typecasting. Same thing with like getting asked to wear a hijab because I'm Muslim, but like I don't wear a hijab every day, so I'm not going to do that. So it's like they see us as these like very particular stereotypes, and they haven't really branched out of that. So I think it's like the industry doesn't even know to look for us. And then the other part of it is because it looks like we don't have space in the industry, we're not pushing hard enough to get into it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think there's so much of it where it's like we're just now becoming creatives. We're just now taking a stand and being like, I want to be an actor, or I want to be a videographer, or I want to be a dancer full time.
Yeah.
Like this is a career path that I want to pursue. And so I think it needs to be a combination of both. It's like we need to push through in the industry and show them that we have this talent. We are looking to be Victoria's Secret models. Then they'll be like, okay, so like maybe this is something that we can look into more. We can start like, you know, like considering those like South Asians to be in those spots. And then I think another layer is having people who are decision makers. Like how many casting directors or directors do we know in the Western world who are Indian?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, only M. Night Shyamalan is there, but he always directs white people.
Exactly. Right? We need more people in those decision-making seats as well, because if they're like, okay, I need to see more people who look like me in front of the camera or in those spaces, that's how it's like a combination of all those things coming together is what's going to make it work.
Exactly. And do you also believe that, you know, when PK, you're sending me something? Yeah, I was getting the notification. We can continue, keep rolling it. Yes, he has a really good question. So, do you think that there are some sources for all the Indian Americans to get into the modeling industry, or like, has somebody opened some kind of a source which might actually be helpful for us?
Yeah, I think there are like resources. I'm trying to be one. I put out content that helps people break into the industry as petite models. I have a broadcast channel where I send in opportunities that I see anywhere on Instagram, things of that nature. I know there have been like South Asian New York Fashion Week, I know has tried to like bring resources. I don't think there's still one good resource for us to go to. I think it's really fragmented. And I think people are still holding back.
Yeah.
Like, because they're like, oh, if I give you all my secrets, like what if you get the job that I want? Or like, what if you get ahead of me? Right? Like I think there's a lot of that. And so I think a lot of people, even once they find success, they keep it to themselves, or they don't share the opportunities or they wait till they're successful. Then they share the opportunities or like share their secrets or their resources. So I'm trying to find a way to do it while I'm learning too.
That's really great. I mean, like, there are very few people who kind of bother about like, doing something for the community. And they kind of put us in a spot that, we are trying to be very inclusive in our own thing, but that's not the case. The thing is like nobody has created the group for us that we have to be that way, and get our recognition hard way rather than like, just asking them or something like that.
Yeah.
That's very good insight we got towards in the industry. All right, we'll move on to the next segment of our podcast. Let me see what we have here. All right, so since you mentioned you're a brand strategist as well, how do you pick up the brands that you feel like, okay, these are the ones that align with my goals or like something like that? How do you choose between the brands that you want to work with? Or is it like, is that money is the factor? Is the exposure is the factor? What is basically goes on when you're trying to recruit brands?
Yeah, I think the two big things for me are, making sure that it's not a brand that I don't align with, I think, just like value wise. And then usually I'm looking for a new challenge. So, or like if it's something I'm really good at and I've already done before, but usually I like challenges. So I think like if it's developing, a TikTok strategy or like whatnot, like I think just like trying to find clients that are willing to trust me and it's a new challenge for me and that like aligns with my values.
I see. And does it, since you have an academic background of like marketing, do you feel like it gives you kind of like an edge towards building your own brand as a model?
Yeah, 100%. I should probably take more advantage of it. But I think it's so important to have a strong social media presence, no matter who you are. Like if you're a company, a model, if you're trying to start your own business, whatever you are, like that's how people learn about you. That's how you build awareness. You like living in a digital social world right now, everyone is getting their information from Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where information lives. And so I think it's so important to have a presence and have a strong presence and make sure everyone knows like what you stand for, who you are, what product or service, you're giving. I feel like for me, it's been so helpful because I've not only like received clients for like my marketing business, but also clients from a modeling perspective through social media. That's how they found me and then reached out to me. And then even like with content creation and like doing brand deals and stuff like that. So I think social media is so important for that kind of stuff.
That was my next question actually. Like how do you think the social media plays out like the role in the modeling industry? Because whenever you, like in today's norm, whenever you open the Instagram or any TikTok or anything like that, you always see like there is in 10 seconds, there is another beautiful person there, regardless of their gender or whatever. How do you feel like it's a very competitive environment that has created? What are the pros and cons for that?
Oh, 100%. It's super competitive. I think with the introduction of influencers, I think it's made it really hard because a lot of brands are like, oh, should I choose an influencer who, also looks great and knows how to act in front of a camera, but also comes with this following and community that I could like tap into? Or do I choose this model who kind of would, not have like followers and like a brand attached to them already. I think there's like a really, really blurry line. So I think it's really important. It makes it really easy to compare yourself and not be proud of your accomplishments. But I think it's also very beneficial in creating a network. I get asked all the time, like even before I had an agency, even while I have an agency, like how do you get modeling gigs? And so much of it is like me finding photographers in New York on Instagram, finding makeup artists, finding stylists, finding other Indian models and messaging them on Instagram and being like, hey, can I talk to you a little bit more about this? Can I ask you this question? Do you want to do a photo shoot together? Right, like exactly. Yeah. I think so much of it has been networking, and that's so valuable. And I don't think I would be where I am today if I hadn't used that.
So after seeing like a lot of Instagram influencers, as we were talking about, do you think the influencers kind of deserve to be on the runway stage or not so much? Like just in a category in a sense that, because they always present themselves as like, they are really good looking.
Yeah.
They have a really good fashion sense. Yeah. They have all those things going on for them. And they also collaborate with some of the big brands as well. Do you think they are more deserving to be on the runway than the models which are already there?
No, I don't think they're more deserving. I think they serve a specific purpose.
Okay.
So I think because they're a face that most people would know, I think it brings attention. And I think like they're walking for that reason, because they're bringing that like awareness and attention and kind of like, awareness and attention to the show or to the designer or whatever. That's the purpose that they serve. I'm sure that like I've actually seen influencers turn into models or have gotten actual training to be models and things of that nature. But I think for the most part, when brands are working with influencers, especially in like the fashion scene and like modeling scene, it's because they want to attract their consumers and their customers that the influencer is like really tied to, and their followers.
Oh, I see.
So I think if
like their own bubble that they have.
Right, exactly. So I think that's great. And from a marketing perspective, right, from my marketing brain, I'm like, that's smart. That's really smart. Yeah. But if you're looking to hire someone who completes the goal of like whatever it is, right, whether it's a commercial shoot or a runway show, you're going to choose a model who knows what they're doing.
So who can actually put justice to the designs and all the things that are coming there.
Exactly, and do the walk, and who's trained for this or who's practiced for this or who's worked really hard to like get to that spot.
Yeah, I see. That's actually good. I mean, like in a sense of that, because everybody is designed to have this specific thing, and if somebody has this kind of a training, especially to walk in a certain way or something, I don't think an influencer can do that. They can if they have the training, right kind of training.
Yeah, I think the line gets blurry.
It can get blurry sometimes, right?
Yeah. I think it's hard to say who's more deserving, but I do think it is unfair to fill your whole show with influencers when there are models who have trained, who have worked hard, who like do this for a living, and who will like do the designs a little bit more justice.
I see. Okay, I'm gonna cut this a little bit more backwards and go back in time, and actually wanted to see that, okay, a girl born in an Indian Muslim family, when did you tell your parents that I actually do not want to do any of the career choices as a mainstream, and I wanted to pursue modeling as my main thing, and like, do marketing on an academic level? What was their reaction like? And how did they react? Were they more supportive or not? How was your interaction that time?
Yeah, I think, so for as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a dentist, which is weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm checking my teeth is good, right? Yeah.
Super weird. But I wanted to be a dentist, so my mom was like, oh, great, medical field, okay,
She has a career set.
Yeah. Then in college, I realized I actually am not great at science. So couldn't be done.
We all realized that in that time.
So I went towards business, and like my mom always says this till this day. She's like, business is in your blood. My mom and my dad are both entrepreneurs. My mom started a beauty salon, multiple beauty salons. My dad owns gas stations. So it's like they've always been like business people, and I think since I grew up around that, I've always I always kind of taken that into consideration. So definitely lean towards business. My sister's in the medical field. She's satisfying that need.
Every
right?
person is successful right here to the family.
But she's like satisfying that stereotypical need.
I see.
So
somebody has to do it.
Right?
One of the sibling.
Yeah. So I definitely told them in college I wanted to do business. I think they were very much okay with that just because they're familiar with it.
Yeah.
I went into marketing. That was great. I think for them, like the goal was always like, okay, you can do marketing, but like do it for Google or like one of those like big companies, right? And I always worked at advertising agencies, which they still don't know what I do. They're like, what? I'm like, okay, my team makes TikToks for other brands. Like that's the easiest way.
And then that's how I make money.
Yes. And I'm in charge of them. I make their contracts, budgets, and timelines. Yeah. So I think for them, like it took them a long time to understand what that was. A lot of the ISI people still don't know what that is. And I think in like bringing them along, it was okay. Then I started modeling alongside my job.
Yeah.
And I think my mom was like, okay, like have fun, sure, get some cute pictures, no problem, but like be safe and like don't do anything we wouldn't be proud of. And I think that was interesting because she was like,
that's the right message to put actually to the
right?
children. Yes.
Yeah, she was like, just don't do anything we wouldn't be proud of. And I was like, fair.
Fair enough.
But sometimes we have different or she's like, don't cross the line. And I'm like, I think my line is different than your line.
Exactly. I think that's a generation gap.
Yeah, as like an Indian American, I'm a little bit more okay with doing some things that maybe my mom wouldn't be okay with, or would like be okay with me doing. So I think like that was kind of a clash. And then once it started getting more serious, she was definitely a little bit iffy, right? She was like, are you sure? Like maybe you could just like find a job that you like better, or maybe like, like just find a job that excites you again. Because I was like, I really would like to lean a little bit more towards modeling, give more effort to that, take it more seriously. And she's like, keep it as a hobby, keep it like fun for a very long time. Then I started booking brands that were like household names, right? Like Conair and Mac and like foundation brands and stuff that like she knows. And she was like, oh wait. And then like articles started coming out about like my journey, and like I started speaking on podcasts, and it started growing from there. And she's like, wait, like I think you're actually doing something here. Like I think,
once the fame starts to kick in, then,
right?
Then
she's like, oh wait. So, but it was amazing because like my parents had always been supportive.
Okay.
But it was like a brand new level. It was like we actually do believe it. Like they were just saying that because they didn't want me to get into an argument with them because I was a little headstrong.
And it's very hard to argue with, especially Indian parents.
Yeah. They're like, okay, fine, we'll just avoid an argument with her. Like do whatever you want, just like keep us updated, right? And like keep it as a hobby. But once I started getting more serious with it, I really saw the shift in my parents, which motivated me even more. I'm like, what? My Muslim Indian parents are supporting this non-traditional career path?
Yeah, that's something like which comes to very much surprise for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because they have this certain view as well about this, and rightly so too, because they have seen a certain things. But yeah, that's really good. And do you think that it is sort of changing now, like especially with the Desi parents, like they are much more okay with their children like having a different kind of passion and pursue them? Do you think that change is coming, or is it still that hard to convince them?
Yeah, I mean, I hope it's coming. I think it's a combination of like, again, like that whole like I want to make my parents proud, and like this is kind of the stuff that I've always been around, I've always seen, and I always see other like Desi people doing around me too. So like I'm just going to make sure I do it as well, And I think people are scared of like disappointing their parents, scared of like the guilt that the parents might express or show.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger one.
Right? Like, yeah, like, and it's scary too, and it's hard. And like right now I'm going out on a limb. Like I'm taking a big leap of faith, really dedicating so much time and effort to modeling. And like in my head, I'm like, I could just always go back to like
the comfort zone, right? And the safe zone.
Yeah, the safe zone, which is like corporate life. But
oh, I thought getting married.
That too, that's there. But yeah, so I think it's like our generation wants to do it, but we're kind of scared of like what our parents are going to think and what they're going to say, because we value that so much.
Yes.
Because we know how much they've given up for us to come here and to give us the life that we want. So it's like, and I deal with that sometimes too. I'm like, I still want to make you proud. And my parents are like, and I think in my head for so long, I was like, how I make them proud is like, I work at a big company and like, I'm a successful businesswoman. But they're like,
so that part is like, check.
Yeah. But they're like, you're making us proud by following your dreams. Like, that's all we wanted for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like, we're moving to America so Alysha can become a doctor. It's like, we're moving to America so Alysha can like,
have a future,
have her dreams and like do what we couldn't.
Yeah.
So I think it's like,
I think like sometimes it is about that, you know, their parents kind of, because they sacrifice their own dreams and hopes just so that we can have a stable home.
Yeah.
Especially like a nuclear family, which I kind of believe is like the best governance example anybody can have. Because in a nuclear family, like you get the discipline as well, at the same time closeness to the parents too. And just like, you know, that's something I think we all Desi people have in common, that we don't have to take permissions just to talk to our parents, or like, you know, meet this one thing, like, you know, whatever. But yeah, I think like the change is coming. Sometimes that burden might actually be a lot when you're, you know, having this thing about like, am I disappointing my parents? Or is that something, you know, because we have this close bond that we develop. But yeah, that's a really good insight. I mean, like, you were raised pretty well, I would say, like considering the Indian Americans that we have seen over here, it's like pretty good.
Yeah.
So, Alysha, you have been a really good online presence, right? Like, you have so many followers on social media. And of course, with all the good things that comes with social media, it is also a very nasty place when it comes to negative comments, or like, you know, anybody just wants to take out their frustration and saying whatever comes to their mind. How do you deal with that? What is your process?
It was tough. I think mostly when I'm talking about being a runway model at the height of 5'3" is when I get the most hate comments, and they really target your insecurities and your flaws and just go crazy with it. So I think initially I had to make this decision because I was noticing that my reel was going viral, but the more viral it went, the more hate comments I got. Oh. And I was like, I really want to put this video out there, and I really want people to get the message that I'm trying to put across. But the negative comments were deteriorating my mental health. Like, I was crying. I was like on my phone constantly reading every single comment. My sister was like replying on my behalf and trying to like be mean right back to the hate comments, you know, and they were attacking everything. It wasn't just like, it was mostly the way I looked, but it was also like going on other videos and commenting bad things, or being like, you don't know what you're doing, you don't deserve to be here, right? You know, just like everything that like, you know that it's not true, but when you read it from someone else,
it just hurts. It's pinching. Hurts. Everything is like needle.
So I had to make this decision where I was like, do I turn off my comments and, you know, have a little bit more peace of mind, or do I let this video still like let it gain virality, like let it get to people, you know, let my message be heard and like stand up to these haters. It was really hard. I think for a week, I didn't leave my house. I was crying all the time. Wow. I was doubting if I even was meant to model, if I should model, if I could continue modeling. But then so many amazing things came out of letting that video be heard and be there, right? I received so many empowering messages and comments. I got brand deals. I got invited to be part of a show because someone saw that reel that I posted that went viral. So many people shared their stories with me. Like, they were DMing me and they're like, I'm 5'1", I'm 5'2", and you give me hope, you know? Like, I've gotten rejected so many times and you give me hope. So I think for me, like, that's what kept me going, but it's so hard. Still till this day, I'm still getting hate comments on that video. And then people are fighting with each other too.
Yeah, then you get your followers, supporters, and they were like, you know, no, don't say things like that.
Yeah. And then there were random people standing up for me that I've never met before. They've never followed me, but they saw what was happening and they're standing up for me, which is crazy. So I think, again, good, bad, ugly, right? A little bit of everything. but sticking to it, I think, has been helpful. But it is very hard. It is very hard. No one should have to hear those things from people all around the world that they don't even know. Shouldn't be saying those things. And I think like for some reason people get a lot of courage when they're behind a screen.
Yeah. Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, and I don't think they realize there's someone else at the other end of it, right?
Who has everything right there in the open.
Yeah, like I have feelings too. I'm a human too. I feel like I don't think you'd ever say that up to my face.
Exactly.
But you have so much courage saying it, behind a screen. And it can be so damaging for people. Like, thankfully for me, I was able to get through it, but there's so many other people who it affects them at such a deeper level. You don't know. You don't know how, what decisions they might make because of the things you said online. So.
And do you also think that, sometimes it can also be a blessing in disguise? For example, like if there's more traction in a certain post, then, it might go to certain places. You might be getting more deals, as you mentioned before too. So it can be a blessing as well in a sense, right?
Yeah. My basically I was like, thank you to my haters for getting me this brand deal. That's basically it. In the moment, I didn't feel like that. When it was happening, I was
you don't never
distraught.
know how to process them.
Yeah. But I think coming onto the other side of it, I was like, thank you to my haters. I got a new Newsweek article published because of you. So call me ugly. Tell me my forehead's big. Tell me I'm too short to model.
My God.
Tell me I need to work out more. Whatever it is you want to tell me, go ahead. Because at the end of the day, because of your comments and because you're fighting in the comments and because of your hate, I'm going to be more successful.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. And I think that's a good way to approach that too. Sure. Are there any comments that are stuck with you, or that is something that will make you think that, okay, might be right, or that might actually be very true?
Yeah, I mean, all the ones I just said, that I need to work out more, that my forehead is too big. I think that was the one I got the most. They're like, even with that big of a forehead, you didn't meet the height requirement.
Wow, that is just mean.
Which, it's a little funny, but I think so much of it is people really are noticing what might be your insecurity or what might be your flaw, and using it against you. And I feel like that's when it hurts the most. Mm-hmm. So I feel like a lot of times it was things that if it's something I can't change about myself, like my height, I'm like, okay, whatever. I can't do anything about it. But then if there are things where they're like, you're not skinny enough to be, on runway, or have you seen your face? You should cover that with a bag or something. It's like, okay, well, I feel like that's kind of goes into the conversation that we talked about earlier, where it's like, if people are making those kinds of comments, then that's probably going to lead me to do unhealthy things to lose weight, or think about doing filler or plastic surgery or whatever, because I'm getting those kinds of comments and there's something I can do about it.
Yeah, do you think that is kind of also pushing the people to do all these things to cosmetic surgeries? Or I'm not sure if you know this actress, but her name is Erin Moriarty, and she was actually in this TV show Boys, and she was really pretty looking. She had this kind of a voice which was very much matching with Selena's voice in a sense. A lot of people compared that. And I don't know what happened to her, and then she did the buccal fat removal. And no shade to her, nothing, but drastically changed the look and the way she used to look. It's more of that standard that the industry is trying to push. Do you think is there some sort of a secret backing or planning from these industries, and they are pushing towards that just so that they can earn a lot of money?
Oh, 100%. I think it's so hard because filler and Botox are so common now. Even people who aren't even in the industry, who are just normal people, they're getting filler. 18-year-olds are getting filler, right? It's so common. And I'm so conflicted because it's I'm all about if you want to feel confident and this helps you feel confident in your look and your life.
Go for it.
Go for it. Who am I to tell you anything? But I think the other side of it is do you know the impact and effects that's doing to your mental health, to your body image, to your literal body like 10 years from now, right?
Especially that young age too.
Yeah, and I think it's tough, and I think this industry is the worst for it, because I was never someone who was like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. But now all my conversations with my model friends are like, oh yeah, like, you know, I wish like my nose was this way. I wish my cheeks looked like this. I wish my lips were bigger, smaller, this, that, right? It's like, that's what we're constantly talking about. And these are solutions that are like now very easily accessible too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's definitely an agenda. I think it's gained popularity because of social media, because everyone's now being honest and transparent about the work that they've gotten done on their face. So everyone's like, oh, now that I know if I want to look like her, I have to do this.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like me getting the money and booking the appointment, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's like very normal, very easily accessible now, very standard. And I don't know,
I think it also puts this fact that, you know, when we used to meet people normally before social media, it's not very usual that you're going to stare at a person's face for like 2 details and everything, and you're going to criticize each thing that is in mind. Because mostly you're just communicating. You're also self-secure. The other person is also a little bit self-insecure.
Exactly.
But in social media, it's like, you know, you're not visible. It's like watching somebody with your camera off.
Yeah.
And that way you can actually see this person again and again in a certain way. And then, of course, after a certain point, you will realize that, okay, this is missing, that is missing, just like any marriage. But like, you know, but in a sense, it's like this, that, you know, when you get used to it, familiar with it, then you kind of just point out the bad things that, if this will improve a little bit, then it would be perfect.
Yeah, totally fair.
Is there anything perfect in the world?
No. And I think I've been shocked, but through modeling, yes, I'm always going to pick out my flaws. Everyone does that. But I think there were also some moments that I was shocked where I've had like casting directors or photographers or like other people tell me, I like this unique thing about you. Like, for example, my lips have this like natural, like 2-tone shade to it, which for my entire life, I'm like, why don't I have pink normal lips? Like, something's wrong with me. I want to get this fixed. And it's something so small, but it like always bothered me. And
did you smoke too much?
No, nothing like that. That's just how it's always been. That's just how I was born. And recently I was asked to be like in a lipstick campaign because they were like, we want to show other people who have different lips and similar to yours, because people who have like darker skin tones usually have like darker lips.
Or 2 shades or something.
Or 2 shades, that like that's a normal thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, wow, okay.
Finally.
Like this insecurity about me was something that like helped me, like modeling helped me view in a positive way.
Yeah.
So like, yes, lots of negatives. We could go and talk about that all day, all night. But I think there's been like pieces of positives that have been really cool to see.
And I think like creators like yourself who are very much open to challenging these norms can bring a good change into the industry as well. Do you think like, just like yourself, there are a lot of people who are doing it, or the quantity is very less? What do you think about that?
I think everyone wants to do it. I don't know if anyone's working hard enough to do it. Like, do you mean like in the like Indian, South Asian space, or?
In general as well, like just to change this norm, which is fixed from like, I don't know how many long ago, that, you know, you have to look this certain way, or you have to dress this certain way, or you have to have this kind of a shape, or like jaw size. And that's what always gets me confusing, because we literally in this world, we have some of the races who do not have that kind of a jaw shape as well, or the eye shape, or that thing. How are you going to classify that now? Are you going to tell these people too the surgery? Even though I would say in their countries, the surgeries are very much like a gift of graduation. But yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Also, that puts me, because you have worked here in New York. And from all of my other friends and everybody, I've heard like some of the very horror stories, especially of the New York photographers and everything. Have you ever had these kind of experiences here? That you got spooked away, that, you know, no, not today, but not tomorrow. I'm not going to work with this person.
Yeah. I think there's definitely a number of like issues that come up with working with photographers. I think like one is definitely like the financial aspect of like getting scammed. That's a big one. And then obviously the other is like safety from like working with male photographers. Most photographers that you're going to encounter just naturally are males. Sometimes they get into it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And sometimes they want you to meet them at like a sketchy location or, you know. So I think, yeah, like definitely I'd be surprised if there have been any models who haven't had an experience like that, where it's just like a little concerning for your safety. I think for me, it's just like taught me a lot of ways to be safe and like secure and like think through. Just I think as a girl, you have to think through of those measures. So yeah, you know, it's like making sure that you talk to other people who've worked with them to make sure that they're legit and that they're serious and that they're not trying to take advantage of you. And then I usually try to get on a call or like a FaceTime before I work with the photographer, just so I can get some FaceTime with them. I can understand like what their goal is behind the photo shoot, things of that nature. Like anytime I can do that, I try to do that, share my location, call my mom. I do all the things, right? I try to do all the safety measures because it's really scary.
Is it scary?
It's really scary. And there just are people in the industry who want to take advantage of you.
Or pigs.
Yeah. Or like there have been times where I've taken pictures and I've never got them back. And I'm like, what are you doing with my pictures?
Wow. Like they never sent it back?
No.
I think that is something that a very rookie mistake or like, you know, very unprofessional behavior anybody can do. Yeah. Even though like, no matter how you took the pictures, even if you don't like them or something, you always have to share it with the other person.
Exactly. Yeah, there's been like times where like they've made comments that have made me uncomfortable. Like it's been so much of that, and you just have to field it away because it's like, unfortunately, this is the industry.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're gonna deal with really, really amazing, great people to work with, and sometimes you're gonna run into those people who like shouldn't be there.
So, Alysha, in your experience, like, do you think like, you know, that kind of photographers who are like, you know, in the industry for all the wrong reasons, or like the ones who are very professional, want to do work and be creative, which one of them do you think are increasing more in number going forward with whatever is going around in the world and all that?
I mean, I would hope not the kind who are in it for the wrong reasons, but I think it's a lot of like doing a lot of work beforehand and trying to understand like who you're actually going to end up working for. I think a lot of times, like I do recommend models who are starting out to collaborate with photographers before they start paying for shoots.
Okay.
Just because it's like a good chance for you to get in front of the camera and get comfortable as well. And someone who's like learning still to work with you. I think like communication when you're doing that kind of shoot is so important. And so having that communication before you get there is smart, because if you like get on a call or you're talking a lot more, you can start to understand what their intentions are. Ask the questions, right? Like understand if they work with other people, like ask questions to them and stuff like that. What's been happening a lot, at least recently, like in my friend group, is like a couple models have worked with the photographer and they had a great experience. But then when my friend worked with them, it was a really bad experience. So she was so confused because she was like, I heard so many great things from all of these people. So I trusted this photographer. And then when I had my experience, it was so negative and so terrible. So you never really know who you're dealing with. So I think the big thing is like taking time, like not getting excited because it's a free photo shoot or because they're interested in working with you. It's like, let's take the time to understand if this is a safe situation, if this makes sense, if, you know, if this is a good step forward.
I see. And do you think like New York City is actually a safe space for the young models who are trying to make it big? Do you think like you get like right kind of people here?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's good and bad. There's definitely a lot of people who don't treat models like people. Yeah. Or who like think of them as an afterthought. Like I'm sure so many more people have more horror stories than I do. Yeah, I thankfully have been lucky to have like pretty positive experiences, but I know there's a lot, especially when I was still learning and like still building my network in New York. There were a lot of experiences that I had that weren't the best. But I think slowly things are being done. Like I know there was just an act passed where New York agencies have to like take consideration of models first and their health and their well-being and them being comfortable, them being compensated. Nice. Like there are things that are happening to ensure the safety of the models. It's crazy that a act had to be passed, like a law had to be passed for that, because
just for the basic human rights.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's what I struggle to understand sometimes too. Like, I'm pretty, you should actually be treating me better, not worse, right?
That's what we were like taught up to be like, she's a pretty girl, you know?
No, but
not to have prejudice with the ugly ones, but
right.
get surgery. No, I'm kidding.
I think we should have at least basic rights. But I think the treatment of models is getting better. I think it is the worst at runway shows, at least from my experience. Campaigns, photo shoots, much better. Runway, it's just so chaotic. Everyone's running around, and it seems like you are a hanger for the clothes, and that's it.
I see.
Like I've heard so many horror stories where like once you put the clothes on, you can't even drink some water, you can't even eat, and you're wearing those clothes and waiting to walk for like 6 to 7 hours.
Wow. That's like a torture in a sense that, you know, and how you expect the other person to have like mental sanity after that point.
Exactly. So
that's just like worse.
Yeah. So I think there's still a long way to go. I think photographers, there should be some sort of like vetting process or like, you know, I think there are resources like with agencies and photographers who like are known to take advantage of people. There are some resources like that online, but
do you think there should be a licensing process for the photographers that, okay, after passing this exams and vetting process, now you get a license to actually do the photography?
Yeah, 100%. But I do know that like, it's also hard because it costs so much to build your portfolio and get those photos taken. So I know it's like, if they have to go through a licensing process and whatnot, the rates will go even higher. And that makes it harder to break into the industry because like if a shoot costs $500, that's like already way too much.
Yeah.
To, you know, if like I'm
it's
just
out
starting
of budget.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think yes, for safety, but I think it would make it harder to enter, and it's already hard to enter the industry. So hopefully finding a middle ground there.
Have you ever ghosted a photographer?
Yes.
A couple of times. It is sometimes necessary. You have to do it, like if they're constantly asking free. Have you ever turned down free collaboration? Let's go with that.
100%. I think in the beginning, anyone and everyone who reached out to me, if like I didn't get a weird vibe, I would do it. And then the pictures were terrible. So bad.
Especially after you get the sense of like what is good and
or it was just like, it was just not worth my time. I think like I've learned to value my time, and yes, I'm getting free photos, but you're also getting a free model.
Exactly.
And like once you get to a point where you know what you're doing, you know how to like pose in front of the camera or whatnot. It's not like you have a chip on your shoulder, but it's like, hey, I'm bringing talent and skill to you just like you're bringing talent and skill to me. So this needs to be a fair trade. So I think for that reason, like I've definitely had to say no to quite a bit. But I do like to collaborate a lot. I think it's very beneficial. I like to look at it as practice. Like if you're a basketball player, you're going to run drills, you're going to condition, you're going to work out, you're going to practice. For me, collaborations are practice. So when I book a big gig, like I am comfortable in front of the camera. I can test out new ideas, new poses. I can, you know, just like
do experiments with it.
Do experiments, exactly.
It's very interesting. All right, so now we're going to move on to our sponsor segment, which is the bottles that you have been seeing, and we are not talking about it for a long time. So our first sponsor for today is Loca Loca Tequila. We have a really fun sponsoring Q&A kind of a round with you in regards to that. So first of all, let me tell you about the Loca Loca Tequila. Loca Loca Tequila is born in India, made in Mexico, and it's now available worldwide. Its word derives from two words, basically. One is the Spanish one, which says loca, which means crazy. And the other one is loca. It's a Sanskrit word, which means the world. So they are trying to have a very age-appropriate, making the world crazy with the tequila and enjoying having a good vibes, in a sense. So let's dive into it. Let me ask you some of the questions from the sponsors, which might be very interesting for you. Let's see.
Okay.
So if tequila were a photo shoot pose, which one would it be?
Well, I feel like tequila makes me crazy. So very fitting to the brand.
You're a tequila girl?
Yeah.
All right.
So probably the funkiest pose I could think of, maybe like yeah, maybe like on all fours and like kind of like a, weird like stretched down pose. Like
the Zara model?
yes, very Zara model-esque.
Zara model.
Yes, that's exactly what I think of. Yes.
All right. The next question would be cheat day scenario. A margarita or a plate of pakora from Suma Foods, which is right there placed in front of you.
Ooh.
And that is our second sponsor, Suma Foods. They are based out in New Jersey. They always use the fresh ingredients and authentic material basically to give out this unique Indian experience, like, Indian flavors that just like explodes into your mouth.
Yeah.
And they are also now available all over the US. You can place an order online, and that's Suma Foods for you. So the question, coming back to the question, would you have a margarita or a plate of pakoras from Suma Foods?
If my mom's watching this, pakoras. No, I love pakoras, but I also love margaritas. So I feel like that would be really hard. Honestly, I think I'd go for pakoras.
Pakoras?
Yeah.
Sorry, loca. All right, the next one. Let's say Suma Food launches a snack campaign and asks you to be the face.
Ooh.
What's the tagline you would create?
Oh, I mean, I would definitely have to include
I think that
loca.
would include
Yes.
having a taste of a little bit about the Suma Foods. Why don't you try the Murukku?
This.
Yeah, go ahead. You had Murukku before?
Yes.
Or is it Murku?
I
Because
call
we
it
call
Murku.
it Murku.
Yeah.
Right? We call it chakli. It's like
Or
different
like chakri.
chakli. Yeah.
Chakoli, right? I've heard a couple of different names.
How was it? Is it good?
Really good.
Okay, so
Very crispy.
what tagline would you prefer for Suma Foods if you were the face of it?
Something along the lines of like savory, salty, like can't stop eating it. Something like that. Like I feel like once I start eating like chevra or
I'm gonna try a
morkul or
little
something,
bit too, since you
I can't
tried,
stop
let me
eating
see.
it.
I dropped a little bit. Sorry, Suma Foods.
Right?
It's like the right kind of flavor.
Yes. It's so crunchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Suma Food is like sums up everything. That would be the tagline.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yes, that's really good.
All right, let's jump into the next question. If Loca Loca Tequila created a mocktail inspired by your personality,
Ooh.
what would it be called?
Ooh.
That's a good, interesting question. Shout out to my writer, Shanmukhi. Good job.
I think something along the lines of like sassy and spicy or like bubbly and spicy. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, that's it. That makes a lot of sense because Alysha kind of gives that vibe, you know? All right, the next question. I think that's the last one. Tequila inspired yoga or cooking a South Asian dish with a twist. Which one do you think your followers would enjoy more?
Ooh. So like a food dish with tequila, but South Asian inspired.
Yes. Or like a margarita or anything like that.
I don't know. I mean, like mango lassi, I love. So if there was
Spiked
a way,
mango lassi?
spiked mango lassi, or like chas, like I mean, I guess
Oh,
there is a
chas.
version of like.
I think
spiked
you're more of a
chas.
salty girl as well, right? You
Yeah.
like more salty
I
rather
like
than
salty,
sweet?
but I also like sweet. I like both. I have a really big sweet tooth, like gulab jamuns, ras malai, all of that. But I also love savory. So, yeah, maybe. Or maybe like a gulab jamun inspired drink with tequila in it.
Actually, that does sound really, really
That sounds
tasty.
really good.
But like instead of that simple syrup kind of
Yeah,
a thing,
yeah,
you
yeah.
just put like tequila and mix it. Margarita gulab jamun. We just invented a new dish.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
All right, the next one. After a long runway show, what's more comforting, tequila-free margaritas or munching on Suma Food snacks?
That's such a hard decision. Can I have both?
Yeah,
Yeah?
you can have both.
Yeah?
Actually, that works because like, we go hand in hand. Suma Foods and tequila. Go
Yeah.
buy it. Store near you. Coming soon. The next one. Let's talk about pairing. What South Asian dish would you go surprisingly well with the tequila mocktail? Mocktail?
Cocktail?
Cocktail, yes. Writing mistake. Shanmukhi, 1 point cut.
I can imagine like biryani or butter chicken. tasting really good with tequila, like balancing out the flavors just because they have such strong flavors.
Yeah, actually,
not
makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you prefer like a spicy tequila or like a sweet tequila, like a reposado?
Oh, I do like reposado.
Right?
But I also really like spicy drinks. So
Mom, you're not watching, right?
I know, right? Mom, don't watch this part. I think depending on what I was eating. So I think if I was eating like, maybe like buttered chicken or something, definitely like sweet. And then if I wasn't eating something salty or spicy, then I'd want like the spicy tequila. Yeah, balance it out.
What is your philosophy on indulging while maintaining a well-focused lifestyle?
Yeah, I think that's like what I've been trying to achieve. I'm somewhere between like you only live once, but I still want to achieve my goals. So for me, it's like I'm really good during the week, and then I get to treat myself on the weekends.
On the weekends.
Yeah, so or like special occasions, you know, birthdays, anniversaries, like job promotions, whatever that is, right? Like celebrations and weekends, indulge. During the week, very strict, very maintained.
I see. All right, so yeah, that was our sponsor round. Thank you so much, Suma Foods and Loca Loca Tequila for sponsoring us. Do try them, guys. They are available online and also all across the world and US. All right, now we're gonna jump to our rapid fire round, which is a very quick question. It's gonna be like 10 questions round.
Okay.
And just don't think too much about it. Whatever comes to your mind, shoot.
Okay.
All right, so rapid fire round, question number 1, let's do it. Heels or sneakers?
Heels.
Favorite South Asian dish to snack on?
Merkul.
All right. Most embarrassing moment on set?
Oh, a photographer was coming to adjust my hair while I was on set, and I thought he was giving me a hug. So I hugged him in front of like 20 people.
How did he take it?
He was like, oh.
Okay.
Okay. And then he was like, also adjusting your hair.
So he was classy about it, right?
Yeah, he was nice about it, but everyone noticed. Everyone knew that I was wrong. It was embarrassing. And I just had to still be there and act like nothing happened and continue.
Photographer matched the vibe.
Yes.
All right. Dream city to live in?
New York.
Oh, of course. Even though how chaotic it is, it's always New York.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't New York, then maybe Milan.
Milan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. Milan and their fashion is like amazing.
Yes.
All right. If you could model for one historic figure, who would it be?
Oh, historic figure. It's not so rapid fire.
Anyone?
I don't know why I'm thinking of Aishwarya Rai. I don't know why.
Of course, that would actually really make sense, and she's like a very talented woman.
Yeah, I feel like she was the first one who I saw really like make it in Bollywood, and then dabble in Hollywood a little bit before Priyanka, of course.
I think there was a movie with Elijah, right? Like that guy from the originals.
Yeah, maybe.
I think Bride and Prejudice.
Oh, Pride and Prejudice. Yes.
That's
yeah.
the name of
so yeah, I think it would be really cool to, I don't know, work with her in some kind of capacity.
Yeah. And also like she kind of has this kind of, okay, we're losing the rapid fire. We can talk more about Aishwarya later. Your go-to karaoke song?
Ooh, can't think of it now. Probably recently, like a Sabrina Carpenter song, like Espresso or Please, Please. Yes.
That's a really catchy song, actually. I used to sing about that when I'm in restroom.
Yeah.
Not in front of everyone.
I love
but
that.
it is very catchy. One fashion trend you wish would disappear forever?
Oh, so many. I really don't like have you seen the one where like people wear their like underwear on top?
Superman, that's a shade on you.
But it's like girls' fashion right now where they're wearing the underwear on top.
Not working,
It's okay.
not quite working.
It's okay.
No, I can see that. All right. Morning person or night owl?
Morning person if I actually get out of bed, but night owl.
I think that's the story of every Gen Z. Every 90s kid, Gen Z, that's the story.
Yeah.
If you could describe your life in one word, what would it be?
Unreal?
Yeah, that sounds really nice. All right, so that sums up our rapid fire round. I think like you did pretty amazing.
Thank you.
And we also have a surprise hamper as well, which is sponsored by our Suma Foods.
Oh.
And it's right here. This thing, okay, let me get it. So far away. Yes. So Suma Foods have actually given you this hamper. It includes like some of the snacks that they have. It's like a Faryali snack in the north or like the south as well. They use it just when they are doing the intermittent fasting. So that's Suma Food snacks for you. We also have a sweet, because you said that you also enjoy sweets too.
I do.
And then the karanji, your favorite karanji. I think you might call it a little bit different.
No, karanji.
Karanji?
Yeah.
All right, I got that right. So that's the hamper for you. Okay, I'll take it for you just for now. Not gonna take it away, it's hers. Here you go. Just gonna set it up until we finish the segment.
Sounds good.
Because I'm also super hungry. All right, so that was our rapid fire round. Alysha, is there something that you would want the audience to know from this platform or using this platform?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and I feel like I've kind of been saying it in different ways in this interview, is if you have a dream, it is almost like your duty to yourself to try to achieve it, and find a way to make it work. Like, I don't think, at least for me, like I don't want to look back 20 years later and be like, I had all these opportunities and I could have done this and I could have achieved these dreams. I want to look back and be like, I did everything I physically possibly could have and wanted to. So I think try it out, achieve your dream. And I think the biggest person or biggest thing holding you back is yourself. So see what you can do if you stop doing that.
That's actually a really good advice. Thank you so much, Alysha, for being with us and being so patient. I know we were like kind of had a different location. The shooting took a little bit longer, but she's been a very good sport with us. Thank you so much for being on this platform. It was really amazing to know your journey, and especially it was very inspiring for all of us, including the Indians and the Indian Americans, that we can make it.
Yeah.
If we have a dream, we can achieve it.
Of course.
And that will conclude our podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.